The phrase, worst year ever, is often used these days, especially on the internet, for things like being disappointed with the latest Star Wars movie. However, scientists and historians agree that no year in history was worse than the year 536. While there have been other years that could be considered contenders for the worst year, none had such a long-lasting negative effect on the world as 536. In this story, we'll explain why 536 is considered the worst year to be alive. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the Weird History channel and leave a comment to tell us which piece of history you'd like to learn about next. Now, let's dive into why 536 was the worst year ever. During the year 536, Procopius, a Byzantine historian serving as a military advisor to General Belisarius, noticed something strange while traveling in Sicily. He described the sun as giving off light without brightness, almost like it was eclipsed. The sky seemed dark for the entire year, and people noticed the unusual gloom. A Byzantine scribe, Michael the Syrian, later wrote that the sun stayed dark for 18 months, only shining weekly for about 4 hours each day. Crops didn't ripen, and the wine tasted sour. This darkness wasn't metaphorical. It was real. Researchers later discovered that a massive volcanic eruption had spread ash into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and causing a global cooling effect. This was a tough start for 536. Without enough sunlight, plants couldn't grow properly, leading to widespread crop failures and famine around the world. Additionally, with the sun obscured, the Earth's temperature dropped by about 1.6 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, 34.88 to 36.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and this cooling continued for decades. Ireland, for example, experienced what they called bread failure due to food shortages. But the troubles didn't end with bad weather. There were also plagues that struck during this time. One of these plagues, which spread rapidly across the empire, began with painful sores on people's hands and legs, which then swelled. Eventually, the sores burst, releasing pus. In Constantinople, the city became so full of sick bodies that Emperor Justinian ordered them to be removed. Unfortunately, this only helped spread the disease further, as healthy people had to move the bodies, making them vulnerable to infection. The plague, later called the Plague of Justinian, killed around 50 million people. Meanwhile, in China, the weather also turned bizarre. People reported yellow ash-like dust falling from the sky, which they called hui, or dust. This strange weather included summer frost and snow in August, which ruined crops. The resulting famine caused the deaths of up to 80% of the population in some areas. Around the same time, Iceland and Greenland showed evidence of a volcanic eruption in 536. This eruption, along with others in 540 and 547, caused a little ice age, cooling the planet for at least a decade. The colder temperatures destroyed crops, leading to more deaths from starvation and disease. The Byzantine Empire, under Emperor Justinian, faced additional challenges. After suffering military defeats and internal uprisings, the empire also struggled with the effects of disease and famine. The bubonic plague wiped out up to 55% of the population, further weakening the empire. In Peru, the Moche civilization also felt the effects of 536. The Moche, known for their fishing and advanced irrigation systems, saw their economy collapse due to a strong El Niño weather event. The warm waters destroyed the fish supply, and heavy flooding ruined their irrigation systems, leaving them unable to grow enough food. In 1998, a group of scholars, led by Harvard historian Michael McCormick, set out to answer the question of which year was the worst to be alive. They discovered volcanic ash and ice core samples from 536, confirming that a volcanic eruption in that year caused widespread darkness and climate disruption. Despite the hardships of 536, there were signs of recovery in the years that followed. The presence of lead in ice core samples suggested that people were producing silver again, signaling a recovering economy. While 536 was indeed a year of suffering, it eventually gave way to better times. So, would you want to travel back in time and survive the challenges of 536? Let us know in the comments. And while you're here, check out more videos from Weird History. This version simplifies your language while maintaining the original meaning and flow. It's now more accessible and easy to follow while correcting any grammatical errors and enhancing the overall tone.